well, oh, and Mike's there. Okay, well, we can't see you, Mike. Hi, Mike. Okay, you're waving. You're in the back row. All right. So, well, this is terrific. We want to just I've had a few conversations with Mark Capadona, who we'll introduce in a minute. And I think Mike knows him for years, because they worked together to form the Berkshire aggregation when it started. And of course, time marches on and technology marches on and policies and politics and all of those things happen. So we're now glad that Stockbridge is going to be pursuing that. I thought we should do 3 minutes on just the streetlights. Mike, do you think so? Just to let everyone know what's happening there.
Yeah, so I haven't had a chance since just before Christmas, because I've been out the last week, but everything was in the National Grid, everything they were reviewing, everything. I'm just waiting for the signed contract to come back. I did send them after you had contacted me, Laura, and sent them an email asking the status. So I'll be checking today to see if they got back as far as the finalized version, and then we're off and running. So
then we're off and running. Okay, so that's going to be good. We'll have to let George know. We'll have to set an installation date and work with
George
everyone on that.
He's aware of exactly where we stand right now.
Okay, very good. And then we need to do a quarterly report to DOER, to Green Communities.
I got that. I'll get you a draft. We'll get that in.
Okay, perfect. So then I think the next agenda item, which is, I don't have my agenda in front of us, is just to really dive in, right? To municipal aggregation. I don't know who has had a little, and before we introduce Mark and Denise, did everyone have a chance to review any of the materials?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, good. Well, that's terrific. And I want to just say, let's just go around and just do some really brief introductions so that we all get to know Mark and Denise and you. And I think it would be helpful for you Mark and I have had a chance to talk and with Michael, but do you want to just say a couple of words, Buck and Miles and Pat?
Yeah, well, we're all members of the committee. I'm a retired architect, lived in town for, I don't know, 50 years or so, involved in things. So I guess my experience is kind of broad as an architect. So that's, I think, why I'm on this group.
Okay.
I'm a retired computer person, systems designer. And I'm representing the Laurel Hill Association, too, environmental conservation group.
Excellent. And Miles? Oops, you got to unmute, Miles. We're not very good lip readers.
Unmute.
Sorry, I lost my screen. Yeah, I'm Miles Moffat. I've lived in town for a number of years. I'm a consulting engineer with Ty and Bond out of Westfield. I do mostly water and wastewater consulting. Thank you.
And Mike Buffoni, do you want to?
Yeah, Mike Buffoni, water superintendent here in Stockbridge, and I do the Mass Energy Insight data uploading.
And I would say I'd say just on top of that, it's like a very a thoughtful, wise, and I would say courageous group of people that really is dedicated to the town and also the purpose of doing what we can to have less harm to the environment. Okay, and Mark and Denise, do you want to say a couple of words about yourselves too?
Mark Capadona, Colonial Power Group. Muni Ag is what we do. We do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We look forward to explaining the process and getting into aggregation with Stockbridge.
Okay.
Hi, Denise Allard, Colonial Power Group. Just echo what Mark said. And yeah, our goal is just to design a program that is exactly what the town is looking for and offers the town as much flexibility as they need for what's currently available and what will and hopefully will be available moving forward in terms of options for supply. So
Okay. So I don't know, this is every meeting is different, but I would say that the biggest things are to, that we know, that we understand sort of a process and timeline and what Colonial's role is and what our role is. And then the nitty gritty of it is going to be to decide, my understanding from Mark is that they want to deliver what we want. And we want to know what we want and why we want it, and then help to balance out all those little, the wrinkles that could come along with that. And then Mark and Denise can educate us all along the way and guide us along the way. And then we'll make a decision or a recommendation to the select board at some point. But do you want to, where's a good place to start, Mark, with the time frame, the timeline?
So as far as step, I think it would be good for everyone to hear steps. I just, and I'm going to have Denise go through the steps, but I will, from my standpoint, I just want, the lift is going to be on Colonial, meaning all we're going to ask is for guidance from this group. And our job is to make sure that there aren't any adds to staff or things like that, but we are going to need some decisioning along the way. But as far as, there's no add to staff, there's no financial commitment. None of those issues exist with MuniAg. There is a terribly laborious process with the department, which we hope that we're changing, and maybe that's the green shoots of 2023, as you were saying, Laura. Maybe that's some of it, but at least from my standpoint, the hope here is to listen, get everything, make sure the plan is flexible into the future so that you can do anything you want to do should it come up. And then unfortunately, I expect, and Mike has been through this, I don't expect the local process to take a long time. He's an expert at it. He's done it. He understands it. So it shouldn't be, we have to go to town meeting, make no mistake about it. But after that, it really shouldn't be a heavy lift at all. And then unfortunately, we're going to get to the state, and I'll let Denise discuss it. But right now, the time frame is, it's horrendous. That's the only word I can think of. That it's somewhere between 24 and 36 months, which is completely unacceptable at the state level. But that is the current time frame. So with that being said, I'll hand it to Denise, and she can run through the steps, which it's not terribly laborious. It's just we got to hit all the steps and get a filing in. So Denise, I'll let you kind of run through what we need, and hopefully we can get them what they need to at least begin the process.
Sure. So feel free to interrupt me at any time if you have any questions, or if I'm talking too fast or you don't understand. I'm happy to go into more detail, but I just don't want to bore you with too much detail. So feel free to jump in. So as Mark indicated, there's a local approval process, and then there's a state approval process. In terms of the local approval process, it's a town meeting vote, like Mark indicated. So that's the first step to authorize aggregation at a town meeting. Then obviously select an aggregation consultant that'll take you through the process with the state. And then once that's been done, it's generating an aggregation plan, which also comes along with an education plan and some consumer opt-out notices. That material gets generated, and we can talk about this a little more after I go through the steps, but we would recommend, kind of the general aggregation plan that's been accepted, 100+ times in the state, that allows for maximum flexibility in terms of product selections, just so the town isn't kind of handcuffed by the state in terms of what can be offered down the road. But so you have to prepare an aggregation plan. That aggregation plan needs to get posted for public review. The new requirement from the DPU is 30 days. So you need to post a hard copy in the clerk's office, and then an electronic copy needs to go up on the town's website. And the public needs to be given 30 days to comment on that plan, whether it's oral comments or written comments, mailed in or via email. So after that happens and the 30 days is up, then the last part of the local approval process, just in terms of that step, is the select board would vote to approve the aggregation plan or adopt the aggregation plan. So that's the local approval process. So to Mark's point, depending on when the town meeting is, you can probably wrap that up in about 6, 7, 8 weeks tops. Local. Any questions on local before I move on to state? No, it's pretty self-explanatory. Okay. From there, once the select board votes to approve the plan, we take those certified meeting minutes and we bundle it together with all the aggregation documents and the town meeting vote, and that goes on to the Department of Energy Resources. So we send that over to the DOER, and the DOER's attorney will review the documentation to ensure that the vote is good and all the documentation is there. The aggregation plan meets the municipal aggregation statute as written in terms of universal access and equitable treatment, everything that's mentioned in the statute. And that doesn't take it. It depends. He's been pretty quick lately. You know, you could send documentation over, maybe he can schedule a consultation within a couple of weeks. And that consultation is just a phone call. It's about 10 to 15 minutes long. That could just be Mike and Laura. It could just be Mike. You just need one representative from the municipality. And he's just going to go over the statute, make sure the municipal officials on the phone understand that it's an opt-out aggregation, et cetera, because that's the hot button item, right? That everyone's going to get moved over who's on basic service unless they opt out. So wants to make sure the town fully understands. Then that's it for the DOER. They generate a letter saying they met with the town and the materials are in order. You take that letter, bundle it up with everything that you already gave the DOER, and then you create a filing for the Department of Public Utilities. The Department of Public Utilities in early 2020, they issued filing guidelines. So there's a certain order they want to see for the filing and certain materials that need to be included, but it's basically the aggregation plan, the education plan, the votes, any meeting minutes where aggregation was discussed. So the minutes from this meeting, for example, would be included. That all gets bundled up and it goes to the Department of Public Utilities and gets filed. So that's the first step at the DPU. Then to Mark's point, the way things are now, that's been taking about, we have plans in there from summer of 2019, unfortunately. So that's 3+ years. Some folks have been sitting at the DPU, but the steps at the DPU are you file the plan, then the DPU does a public hearing. In the old days, that was in downtown Boston, but ever since COVID, it's been a virtual public hearing via Zoom. They issue a public hearing notice that needs to go in a newspaper. It needs to get posted. Again, like Mark said, Colonial is going to take care of all of that for the town. The town doesn't have to worry about putting that in the newspaper or paying for the notice. We'll take care of all of that for you. You post the public hearing, then you get on a Zoom with the DPU. That's a really quick, again, 10 to 15 minutes. It's kind of like a check the box exercise. There aren't really any questions or anything. They just read through a standard script, and then you've met that requirement for a public hearing at the DPU. And then the next step at the DPU is what's called discovery, or their interrogatories, where the DPU issues a series of information requests on the aggregation plan and the supporting documentation. So over the years, this has varied. Sometimes there's been one round, sometimes there's been 3 or 4 rounds of questions. But again, Colonial will handle all that with our attorney. The town does not have to commit any resources to responding to those information requests. So the questions are usually pretty similar for all communities that have aggregation plans. So the questions will likely be known to Colonial. So we'll prepare responses and submit those responses to the DPU on behalf of the town through our attorney, Jim Avery at Pierce Atwood. So like I said, that could be 1 round, it could be 3 rounds. It depends. We don't really have any insight into that. Hopefully that'll get shorter with the new administration, but that's the last step in the process. And then the DPU issues an order, and that order will allow the town to go out to bid to the competitive supply market to solicit pricing for its residents. So that's the DPU process in a nutshell. It used to take 5 to 6 months. As of late, it's been taking about 3 years. But that's the process at the DPU. And like Mark said, we'll take care of all of that. You don't have to commit any resources or time to that. Certainly you can review whatever you want to review, advisory capacity, but no resources are required. So that's the approval process. And then once you have the approval from the DPU, you're kind of ready to go out to bid. You can go out into the supply market. You don't have to do it right then if the market isn't favorable. I guess Mark and I would say if you got an order last fall and the market was really high, probably wouldn't recommend going out to bid right then to start a program given the elevated market and the volatile market. But certainly you could. It's not like you only have, let me put it this way. Right now, the DPU doesn't put any restrictions on when you need to start your program. None of the orders have said you need to start, I guess the city of Boston was an exception because the size of the city of Boston aggregation, but For other municipalities, there hasn't been a restriction, meaning once you have that order, you go out to market whenever the town feels comfortable. You solicit pricing for your residents, and we can go into more detail about pricing if you'd like, but it's basically, we do indicative pricing rounds and executable pricing rounds. So what the indicative round is you're asking for pricing for suppliers, but it's for informational purposes only. So it allows the town, the energy committee and the select board to look at pricing and see what the various products come in at, plus 10% mass class 1 RECs, 100% mass class 1 RECs. You can look at all those pricing anywhere from 6 months to 36 months in 6-month increments. So 6, 12, 18, 24, or anywhere in between that. There might be a sweet spot at 20 months, say, depending on when you're looking to start the program. So that's indicative pricing. You can review all that. And then when you're ready to see executable pricing, we go back out and we ask for executable pricing. And all that means is it's actionable, meaning if the town sees something that's favorable, the town can sign a contract with the winning supplier on that day. Doesn't mean the town has to sign a contract. So you always hold all the cards. You don't want to sign something that day just because the pricing is executable. You can say, nope, I want to see pricing again in 2 weeks. So that's the town's decision. But if you do decide to execute, that's there's a short window, it's a futures market. So we need a signature from the authorized signatory by about 3 p.m. that afternoon. So the winning supplier can set their hedge. And then you would look to launch the program. So depending on when you had pricing, say you were looking to launch on a November meter read start, November 2023, let's just use that for example. You'd have your pricing locked in, and then you'd go through the exercise of notifying all the basic service customers that they're being switched over. So what you have to do is you have to do a consumer notification mailing, the content of which is dictated by the DPU in terms of what goes in that letter. But you get a mail list from the utility. It has everyone on it that's on basic service. So National Grid basic service or Eversource basic service. The utility gives us the list. So this would be National Grid. And you mail a letter to everybody on that list telling them that they're going to be automatically switched over for a November 2023 meter read start unless they opt out within the 30-day time frame that's noted on the letter. So there would be an opt-out card in that notification and a postage paid replied envelope, and they can mail that back if they don't want to be included, or they can call a phone number and say they don't want to be included, or they can go online and say they don't want to be included. So very easy, multiple vehicles that folks can use if they don't want to be included. But if folks don't opt out, they would be enrolled for that, let's say November 2023 meter read start. And then, there will obviously be an education effort coordinated around the same time, information sessions, press releases, et cetera. We would have that conversation with, what makes most sense for the town of Stockbridge. But I mean, that's kind of it in a nutshell. And then there's, ongoing education, and we would take calls and make sure folks are enrolled and they're in the right product. And then we would give the town reporting on a, every quarterly basis going forward. But I mean, we can go into any parts of that if you want more information. I don't want to just ramble on and on, but that's kind of the process in a nutshell about what would happen. So are there any questions? Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention only because I don't know what everyone's background is here as far as aggregation. So what we're talking about is the supply portion of your bill. You'd still get a single bill from National Grid. It's just rather than say basic service, it would say Stockbridge aggregation, and whoever the supplier might be, Dynegy or NextEra or so forth. But any of the, what I'm going to say, any of the distribution company benefits that you get, a farming discount, a low income discount, a budget billing, all of those things are going to stay in place. If you have solar panels, that's another what I'll call distribution company contract that you have. So that will all stay in place, and it all works with aggregation. So it's not like there's a large change coming. People aren't going to receive 2 bills or any of those things. There's still a National Grid customer. National Grid just over the last 20 years has not produced electricity. So from this point forward, they would just get a different, it actually wouldn't even be a different electron. It would just be a different price, believe it or not, because National Grid doesn't produce any of those electrons anymore. So it's just, ISO New England mix, if you will. So I just wanted to throw that in there just from a background standpoint. We're literally only talking about a single line item change in the bill. And then, the choice that people, you happen to be one of the communities that are feeling it this winter at 33,891. It's just, it's.
I think that's a really important point when we go to town meeting or when we're telling people that's the reassuring part. You're still a National Grid customer. There's no change. You're still eligible for everything. The only difference is the price and that you can opt out. So I think, again, it's like reassuring everyone, like you're reassuring that the town is in the driver's seat. We're reassuring that the customer's in the driver's seat and they have their choices.
Correct. We look at it as a choice that you wouldn't otherwise had. I'm just saying, not that you had it, but you may have had it. Say you had an aggregation. People would have had a choice whether they wanted basic service or the aggregation this winter, which unfortunately we just don't currently have in place yet.
And the only thing I wanted to say to our committee, which is aside from you guys, is I think that we should do something proactive to either DOER or to the governor or to our state reps to let them know that that what you're saying in a more diplomatically say this is unacceptable and we don't want to have to wait 3 years, and make sure that this is on the governor's agenda to make this a much more routine and a much faster process. And I wanted to see if there's anyone who if anyone has any thoughts about that or objections. I don't think we just want to spend too much time now discussing it, but I would be happy to do something.
Certainly worth a try.
Okay.
Yeah, especially because I know Laurel Hill is dealing with a holdup on conservation restrictions that have been sitting for, like a year with the state for approval. But we've been told that with the new administration and that they have hired some new people that should turn around. But yeah, we don't want to be hung up.
Okay.
We don't
Mike,
want you to be hung up.
any objections?
No, I think it's a good idea.
Okay. It probably come from the town. The only thing I can say is that a colleague from CET is on the transition team, and I might be able to just chat with her and see if that can, and see if she has any guidance. But
I had a
otherwise,
question. Yeah, I had a
Go on.
question for Mark. Otherwise, Mark, you mentioned the 33891 number. What is that number that you
That's
referred
the
to?
basic service. Yeah. So if you look on the second page of your bill, I don't know if you have a third-party supplier or basic service. So it would have it would say basic service, and then it has your kilowatts, and then the rate would be 0.33891. If you're looking at a December bill, in January you get a melded bill, Miles.
Okay.
okay, yeah, I just looked at my bill yesterday. I was shocked. I mean, I had sticker shock. I've never seen 33 cents a kilowatt, 34 cents a kilowatt hour. So that was December. It's going to go down a little bit.
No, so it'll stay there until what will actually be April 30th. Then in May you'll get it. But I do expect the market has been fairly favorable here. It's really sold off fairly hard, and I do expect they had a horrific buy in September, and I'm saying horrific buy, and the kind of an all-time high. But I do expect that to come down marketably. I'm saying the rate might be 14 cents, which would be a 20-cent reduction in supply costs. So tremendous help from that standpoint. The problem is you got to get to there, right? That doesn't keep the lights on in January, February, March.
But the aggregation that we're talking about will affect that line item in particular on the bill?
That's the line item that you'll have a choice on. That's correct. Exactly, Miles.
All the other ones, the distribution charge, transmission, all that stays pretty much. That's a different animal, right?
That's all the regulated part of it. That's the T&D that the Department of Public Utilities regulates.
Okay.
And if you're a Green Up customer, does that stay the same too?
Pat, that is a fantastic question. So the Department of Public Utilities has ruled that we're only allowed to get basic service customers. And they have said to us, we feel the same way, that the people that are Green Up customers have made a choice. So those customers, we would not get their names. They could always join the program. but they would need to opt into the program, Pat.
Mm.
So we get everyone that's on basic service. So if you were on a Dynegy or Direct Energy or Clean Energy Choice or one of those other suppliers, you'd already made a choice. It's not that you can't join the program. It's just that you're not going to receive an opt-out notice. And in that scenario, Pat, fantastic question. If you happen to be a Green Up customer, you would stay a Green Up customer until you chose to opt into the program. And if you wanted to see like what it would look like, I don't know if everyone has, it's clear everyone here has access to the internet because we're on a Zoom call. So if you went to colonialpowergroup.com, you can see, and just typed in West Stockbridge, close community, Lennox, or any one of those, you can see kind of all the detail and everything that currently is at their disposal, if you will.
Okay.
As far as information and things like that,
Yeah, that helps.
and how simple the opt-in process actually is.
And can that happen at any time, or does it have to only happen within a certain window?
So believe it or not, there is no, so once the program's running, Pat, you can opt in and out of the program on a meter read whenever you desire. So you could go back and forth if you wanted to. We do have a couple of customers that do that. Normally in the winter, we're way under the rate. Sometimes we're just slightly over in the summertime, but they want to opt back, opt into the basic service because maybe it's slightly less than what we would have otherwise been. But you have stability and savings in your contract. But some people still, and that's perfectly fine. The suppliers are fine with the individual, but most people don't spend the time and effort. They just want to know that they have a stable price for the next 2 to 3 years, depending on what the town's goals are.
And I will say that, from our experience all along with the Berkshire aggregation and the rest, the main thing we got to stress to people is stability. We're able to lock in long-term, giving people a stable rate that the electric companies can't, because they go out, National Grid goes out every 6 months. So there's fluctuates. We can provide stability. We want to minimize the talk about savings, because as Mark said, sometimes in the winter, a lot of times in the winter, we were pretty much always less than the utilities, but in the summer, sometimes the utilities were less than the aggregation. But the biggest thing, and we're seeing it now with what's happening with our neighbors like West Stockbridge, Lennox, and the rest, they're in a stable price right now. And as Mark pointed out, it looks like it was just a one-time fluctuation in a 6-month period that caused National Grid to shoot up. So, we just want to be careful, because I don't know what happened, Mark, with Pioneer Valley, but I know theirs fell apart when they tried to sell it on savings. They tried to say, oh, we're going to save the people $2 million. And everybody went, oh, awesome. Well, Pioneer Valley is huge with the amount of people. It really meant very little savings in their overall bill, and the whole program sort of fell apart. But the Berkshire County one, we were able to, and I think even here should be sold on, we can lock in stability for the town so that people are not going to see 6-month swings. They'll have a stable electric bill.
I noticed Great Barrington was high.
Excellent, Pat.
Yep.
Excellent. And let me I want to make sure I get the correct price here. So just give me 1 second. So in Great Barrington, their price, they were not part of the buying group. Their contract ended. So they're right now in a, which is still compared to basic service, it's still a great rate of 22,203. Okay. But that's only, just so you know, it's only a 12-month rate. So we plan on taking them back out with the whole group if they so desire. That's kind of up to the manager whether he decides to do that or not. But in that scenario, their contract, they weren't part of the larger Berkshire group. They may be joining it, and we've lined them up that way, but that's completely up to them whether they decide to join or not. But it will be only for 12 months. And between you and I, they'll still have some stability, and there'll be some savings here only because the rate is 34 cents for the winter. I know that it won't be 12 cents. We won't be down below 10 cents for National Grid this summer. So they won't give it all back. It's still going to be a high price for the summer, make no mistake. It's just a conversation we need to have. And that is truly the market. But when and I'm sorry to go on so long, but when the market's real high like this, yeah, we're not looking to buy long-term. National Grid doesn't have options. And the one thing we have is 210 trading days compared to the 2 trading days that the utilities have. So believe it or not, right now, Mike, up in North Adams, I'm trying to see here, your last contract you guys signed, I think, North Adams, they're at, they have 5% more mass class ones and they're at 9.95. And that's good until November of 23, but we'll be entertaining the group sometime this January and February, starting to think about, as this market sells off, say, hey, listen, the 9-cent power is gone, right? Those were historic lows. But can we do something at 11 cents for 24 or 36 months as this market sells off? We're going to have them all prepared to go and watch the market as it begins to come down. If it comes down to those rates again, and everyone feels like this is a good thing, at least from my standpoint, there was a lot of safety in members in the large group of communities. I think there's like 14 or 15 of them that went, but they still had the autonomy to choose the products that they wanted for their town, meaning, hey, we're all in the same ballpark, but we might want, and I'll point it out, I think Williamstown might have been the kind of the highest green. I think their basic product might have had 25%. So in Williamstown, they decided their rate was 10.617, but they decided to go with a 25% more mass class 1 product at the time. And just my take, that is everyone doing, I think they have a very different demographic in Williamstown than they do in North Adams. So the leadership was saying, hey, this is more tailored to what we need to do. And this is more tailored to what North Adams needed to do. And that's what I feel like Muni Ag is all about. It's going to be the decisions that this group makes that are most advantageous for Stockbridge. Not what, that's what aggregation does. It brings you choice and control. And Mike, I'm completely with you on stability is the place that we can go. And if for some reason, I'm saying to you, the rate went to 6 cents, maybe we got a great rate at 9. Rate went to 6. If other people wanted to opt out and go to the 6, they certainly could have done so. This is a very fortunate contract, Mike. I feel bad because I don't think you're going to get any of the kudos for that, but you saved tons and tons of money just because the rates have been so high, into the winter.
And I would just go back to, I think one of the, on the state plan, they say establish your goals, which I think we're pretty close to. I mean, it's sort of, the advantages, offers the long-term price certainty. And for me, the goal is also to increase the clean energy contribution. So I think we want to focus on both of those. I think those are, I don't know if that's a feeling from the community, from our committee of our recommendation, is that enables us to, again, help the town and then help the state do its, follow our climate, whatever, the climate change roadmap. And, but the other one on this thing is, and I just wanted to talk about it for one quick second to see if we can just eliminate it or embrace it as a goal, which says municipalities can fund a staff energy manager position through use of an operational adder. I'm assuming that Stockbridge would really be too small to think about doing anything along those lines, or what?
Well, I would actually recommend that we keep it in there as an option, because
Right.
at one point there was discussion within the Berkshire County group about the possibility of the county group having a single person paid through that to do that. I know Pittsfield was looking at that when we brought Pittsfield in 3 years ago, which was really increased the load quite a bit. So
Right.
you leave it in there. I don't think we'd enact it locally for just within the town, but I think it would be an option if we went out, because there was talk about trying to grab other things, sort of like the Cape Cod Compact. They go after a lot more of those funds that the utilities have to put toward green projects.
Right. But anyway, I just think the concept of an adder, even if it's a tiny bit, we should discuss at some point whether it can just go into I don't know if you can just kind of save it and bank it, or you have to spend it on that, or what happens to it, or if we're just too small to think about it. But I do think the township could think about, I mean, more broadly than this committee, to think about some kind of sustainability coordinator to work on all of our efforts.
So Laura, the department's pretty prescriptive. More than, as long as one of the tasks of the person is to check in on the Muni Ag, that's fine. They want it to be a salary position that, and to Mike's point, you know, if I'm making this up, Mike, I don't know how you work, but West Stockbridge, Lennox, and Stockbridge got together. They said, okay, between those three, there's enough money there to fund a position full time, and the person was going to, you know, work on sustainability issues as well as be the, you know, the point person from Muni Ag. What does that mean? You know, maybe they'd interact with us, we get them the reports, so forth and so on. We certainly don't need them to do it. It's not going to be a heavy lift, but it would allow you to look into, Mike, any of those. I heard you mentioning, oh, you're doing the street lights. That person could do street lights. They could do, you know, energy efficiency things for any one of the towns. You know, look into mass save for, you know, any of the municipal buildings, so forth and so on, so that you're able, you know, as far as that goes, you're able to grab all the dollars that are available to each one of the communities.
Okay. Okay, very good.
I just have a question for Mark or for Denise too. If you look at Lennox or West Stockbridge, I notice West Stockbridge, for instance, is under 10 cents right now. Do they have a significant green goal as well in their plan? If we were to, you know, present it to our townspeople, would it be smart to look at what our neighboring towns are doing in terms of green goals?
Yes.
Let me just explain a little bit about the green and what's going on there. So we need to kind of keep this internally here. I made a misstep sending that out. So I did put it out there that, hey, these products are not approved. Okay.
Or what?
The products are not approved by the Department of Public Utilities. They did contract in case they got approval. Please help me out here. 3 years, we've already been waiting just for an opt-in product, something like this.
2+ after right after the last contract was signed, we filed all of the communities for an optional, the right to offer an optional product, and they're still waiting for an order from the department. So they contracted for the contract, with the exception of Pittsfield that had been filed later and was approved for their optional product. The Berkshire, the original group, had gone out, you know, years and years. You know, they weren't one of the first groups that went out. So at that point in time, you didn't need to put it specifically in the plan. But as of late, the DPU wants it spelled out in the plan about the opt-in product. So they're not yet approved. They've been through every step in the process. The next step should be the order, but they just don't have it yet. So they contracted for those products. They just can't offer them yet. So this information is kind of, you know, for this group, but not for public consumption, I guess is what I'd say.
Yeah, but I do want to mention, Miles, because it's a great question. When we went out, we said, hey, listen, as long as the group can decide on a term and a supplier, you get to choose your own town goals. So if you take a look at the spreadsheet that Laura sent out, you know, about 9 o'clock this morning or so, just give me 1 second here so I can pull it up. It shows you kind of, believe it or not, they all went out on the same day, but everyone had a slightly different take on what they wanted. I'm going to go to one of the extremes. So the little town of Florida decided, hey, I want a meats or a meats basic service. That's my standard product. But if I got approved, I'd like them to have an option for 100% mass class ones, kind of the greenest of the green, if somebody really wanted to be green. Yet, I'll go all the way down to Williamstown because I think they're very green to begin with. They said, hey, look, I want 25% more, plus people could opt in. Now, unfortunately, we didn't get an order yet, but I don't want to get into that mess. But if you take a look, that's the 13,382, and they got the exact same price because it's the same day, same load that went out to bid as Florida. Do you see what I'm saying as far as the product goes? So
Gotcha. Yeah, sorry, I didn't see that spreadsheet before. Yeah, that's
okay.
very interesting.
But just so that you know, anything that's double, they have a little double asterisk. Those products are not available to the communities yet because of the department's inability to file an order that I don't even believe they need. It's an opt-in product, and you don't need, Miles, you and I could offer an opt-in product in right now in Stockbridge. We don't have to go to the Department of Public Utilities. It's opt-in. You don't have to go to the Department of Public Utilities. We're offering an opt-in product. Doesn't make any sense to me, but it is where we are with the department. We'll make sure it's in your plan, make no mistake, so you don't have to profile or anything like that, but it's I'm a malcontent under the department's regulatory creep that's gone on over the last, I'll say 4 or 5 years. They've crippled Muni Ag and the decisioning that the towns used to have themselves.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think this spreadsheet, I think well, I guess, I don't know what's public information now. I mean, but anyway, we're gonna just, I don't know what we do about that. But anyway, the point is that at some point, when we get a little bit closer, I think what this does is it lets us, what I had said to Mark is like, we want to be able to, it gives us a good look at who is Stockbridge, what are our values, what do we want to offer, how are we with the relationship to some of the other towns, what's the marketplace when we actually go out to bid, which would affect obviously some of our decision points. So there are a lot of moving parts, but this can give you some idea of what's the difference between the basic standard offer, the standard offer plus 5%, and then the standard offer plus 25% or 50% or 100%, so that we have that. Again, we can try to make it so that it meets the stability needs and the green environmental needs, and it can really try, and the towns and all of our goals. I think that's really the piece of it.
And from my standpoint, I had no trouble having those conversations, make no mistake. My only concern here is we get out a little far over our skis where we have some administrative things that are fairly check the box, meaning clearly we got to get past town meeting and so forth. As long as everyone's on board about the choice, not a problem there. Then the next step, at least in my opinion, is okay, you need to choose someone to help you with this plan once done. And once we get an order, we can, I'm saying to you, at that point, we engage, say, hey, okay, let's have 2 or 3. And I don't know if they're, open meetings so that people can come out and talk to other people other than the energy committee. So we get a voice, but we hear what they want to do. And we show you what the marketplace looks like, because it's for the first time in a long, it's the first time ever you're going to have a decision whether you have a greener product, whether you have a meats product, or or anything in between them. You know what I'm saying? A 100% renewable product. That's for the town to decide and us to deliver.
I was noticing in the material that it talked about how price can vary from town to town because of the mix in the town of residential versus industrial or whatever. And at what point is that determined? Is that something that the town has to, how is that determined? Is that something that the National Grid has information on, or what?
Yeah. Pat, astute question number 3. Fantastic. So when we get an order, we'll go back to National Grid, and National Grid will give us what we call a load profile. I'm not certain that how many households or meters are in Stockbridge at this time, but let's just say there's 1,000 meters in town, right? 1,000 households, apartments, businesses, and so forth. All of those meters will be delivered to us with 12 months. We'll put this in a format that actually has it so that the suppliers, and that's what we call a load profile, can bid on that. So there's a different load profile between residential, commercial, and industrial. We'll put that all together and we'll show them this is the profile. Normally commercial and industrial will drive down your cost somewhat, but it really depends. And just let me explain. So in the town of Dalton, there's a paper manufacturer up there that I was unaware of at the time. They were on basic service, but it ended up hurting the load profile of the town, because believe it or not, the load profile of that paper manufacturer was bigger than the town itself. So they had premiums on that, because remember, the paper company at the time had the ability to opt out at any time. So it's one of those things. I don't know if you have a large user. Most of them, it was an unusual time, I want to say that, because it was so early in the process. Over 90% of the large users, like that paper company, are already out on competitive supply. So it's not something you need to worry about. But it does happen. We've had lots, and I mean lots, of companies trying to get back on the aggregation because they just didn't contract well, period. I do have one question. Mike, are the city buildings, or the town buildings on the, on basic service, or you go out to bid already?
Right now, we're with Constellation.
Through Mune Energy or whatever?
Yes.
Yep. Excellent. That's great. They do a good job.
Does town-owned renewables hurt the probability of getting a lower rate with like the town owning a solar field?
So you can do a lot of things with that solar field, depending on, is it already built?
Yes.
Who's the offtake?
What's that?
Who is the offtake currently? Is it behind the meter or is it?
Yeah, we got our Schedule Z and apply the credits.
To town buildings?
Yes.
So if you wanted to generate more revenue or what have you, you could apply that to a discount to the low income customers in town. We could take that, we could buy the SREC. Well, I'm assuming this isn't SREC 2, it's smart, so you don't have any RECs.
I'd have to check. I'm not sure. It's an older one. It's been in.
Oh, if it's older, then we can buy the, we need to have SRECs to meet the load. So you certainly could sell those SRECs, Mike, to the aggregation. And the supplier will definitely buy them. It's not a problem at all. So you get an extra benefit depending on who the offtake is. And we got a cease and desist in Boston. Boston was going to become one of the largest developers of low income community solar. But as an offtake, we know where all the customers that are R2 customers in Stockbridge. You could deliver that benefit to them. I just need to take a look at the size of the system, what their usage is, and so forth. But you could use that locally if you so desire. If not, it sounds to me like you're currently just taking the benefit, which it's a winner chicken dinner. This, because they're now paying you 30. Well, I don't know what your contract is with Constellation, but your credits are going on this winter at 34 cents a kilowatt hour compared to whatever you're paying. So you should see those really kick up. When normally, you're eating through your credits. It's quite a benefit this winter.
Right.
I think that's really interesting. I didn't understand a word of it. But what's interesting is that it could be, I mean, if someone, Mike, or if someone could sort of write that up about how smart Stockbridge was and how much we're saving because we built solar and we're getting credit for that. And we're not paying 33, whatever that is. If that's delivering a savings to our town here and now because we have solar, that would be a great paragraph to let people know of, that, that renewables really work in that way, and that we made a wise decision and put a paragraph into the Stockbridge updates or something like that. I mean, if that's what you're sort of saying.
No, there's no question. I mean, we all pay for it. It's going back to Miles' point, we're all paying for it. On our bill, it's one of the line item charges, right? But you guys are actually taking advantage of that benefit, and that's a wonderful thing. Period. Kudos to you guys. But
I don't understand it. Could someone, I mean, if someone could write that in a paragraph, I think that would be, I would love to understand that better, how that really translates into the real world of energy pricing, that we have some renewable energy. I don't know if Mike could do that or Mark could do that or someone, but that's whatever that, just to put that in something that I could understand better.
No, I'll certainly get Mike something so that he can just review it so that he feels comfortable. I'm just not certain of all the details, but I can certainly get him a paragraph that would talk about at 20,000 feet. Hey, look, this is what actually is happening, and he can just pass it along to the group.
What do you think, Mike? Would that be good?
Yep.
Everybody, other people?
Yeah.
I just think that's good. And, even for the town annual report, I mean, some of those things people don't understand when we make a decision back in town meeting, or we join green communities, or, what really happens in the real world to decisions that we made years ago. And sometimes they don't play out so well, like the heating system at the town offices or whatever, but sometimes they do. And we need to deliver the good news too.
Yeah, no, especially when you're making astute decisions like that, you should be able to take a bow because as you guys know, as a group, they're ready to, they beat you up nowadays when they don't, when something doesn't go your way. So you certainly should take the kudos when you can take a bow. That's no question about that.
Right. Okay, anything else? What were the other things that we need to do right now? I think the only thing now, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Are there other questions right now from the group?
I
Nope.
just wanted to say, I think I gave Mike Mike, did I give you the language for the warrant article?
Oh, yes, you
Yeah.
did give it. We have that too. Should we take a
Okay.
quick look at that?
No,
I
I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, just a couple,
It-
but I just wanted to make sure you had it if you needed it or what have you. And by
Right,
no
we have-
means,
So I'm planning on, placing that on the warrant for the selectmen to approve to go forward. So it'll go on this year's town meeting if the green community agrees with it. And, that'll be the first baby step in this, because as you said, it's gonna take the state, upwards of 2 years to get the rest of it approved. And then we'll have some decisions once the state approves it as to what we do. Maybe try to line ourselves up like Dalton's done, line itself up where it can join with the rest of the Berkshire County aggregate group and things.
Should
like-
we take a vote on that? Who would like to make sure, is there support for placing an article on the town warrant to begin the aggregation?
See any reason not to?
Okay, very,
Right.
any, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
very
Aye.
good. So that's unanimous. Mike, I think that can be a report to the select board.
Yep.
That the committee recommends that, or we can talk afterwards and see how you want to do that. So that goes on.
we're willing to go to town, but Mike, I don't, you were at the city before, but if you need us there, Mike, you probably can handle it, but it's completely up to you. If you want to have backup there, we're happy to come answer questions if people had them at town meeting.
Yeah. Probably what I do is present it to the selectmen and then ask them if they want to have you in to answer questions and maybe do a dedicated meeting where we just, introduce this to the town, make sure people
Sure.
understand, because there are a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
questions right now around electricity.
Oh, I can only imagine, yeah. And when is town meeting, May? Mike,
May. Yep.
plenty of time. Yep.
Do you think, Mike, do you think it'd be better just to have a introductory thing, a Q&A in advance of town meeting at a select board meeting?
So that's what I'm thinking is I present first to the selectmen that we're having the warrant article. And then invite Colonial to come to a selectmen's meeting about this and then.
I think that's a
dedicated
that's-
meeting about
yeah.
everything.
I think that's a great idea. I don't think there's any downside to this at town meeting. I mean, I don't expect any problem there. And as I think I might have mentioned, I don't think everybody knows this, but Buck knows this. I was walking by the coffee shop one morning. There's 6 people wondering why we don't have an aggregation. So electric rates and municipal aggregation is on people's minds. And I think that's really positive, when people want to see the benefits of getting together and doing something.
Yeah, the biggest point before, there were people against it before, and this may be why there were communities, because there were municipal officials and others that didn't feel like it wasn't the municipality's job to have to get in the electric business. But I think that was back when this was just happening, but with the extreme price that National Grid just threw in, really it really comes down to a timing issue on National Grid. Like Mark said, they have 2 days that they go out, one in the fall, one in the spring, and that's when they have to get their price, period. So if the market is horrible at that point, it doesn't matter, so I think right now everybody's well aware of it. I don't see anybody saying that, yeah, this is no longer something a municipality should be doing to look out for its citizens.
Laura?
Yes,
I just have to interject. I have another Zoom meeting at 10:30, so if I disappear, you'll know that it's a legitimate excuse.
okay.
Thanks, Mark and Denise, for all of your very good counsel. We all really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It's nice to meet you, Mark.
Very good. Yeah, I think we're pretty much, I'm not looking at the agenda, but have we accomplished what we need to for today?
You had an EV charging station line on the agenda?
Oh, yeah, thank you. And that, yeah, Mike, the update on that too.
Yeah, just a real quick update. So by the time everything got lined up, they're not gonna be able to do the work until the spring. So the work will be done in the spring. We did get the $50,000 grant, and we have the 33 coming from ARPA funds to fund the remaining part of it. So all of that will happen in the spring.
Oh, good job, Mike.
Very good.
Good.
Okay. I will type up some notes from this meeting and send them out for review, and then I don't think we had it, and then we can approve them at the next meeting, I guess, for posting. I don't know when our next meeting will be. I'll work with Mike just to send out informational stuff if there is some, like if Mark or Denise are going to come to a select board meeting and that kind of stuff. In the meantime, I'll probably be writing up a report for the town report on our activities over the year at some point, which I'll send out a draft to you of. And hopefully we'll have some streetlights happening in the next quarter. Hope, if the weather cooperates. And anything else? Okay, any other
That's it.
comments? Do people feel good about this meeting and what we accomplished?
Indeed.
Yeah, very
Nice to
good,
meet
Laura.
everyone.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Miles, you were gonna say something?
No, just saying good. Thanks for bringing us up to date and organizing this.
Very good.
Good
Mike,
progress.
anything from you?
No, looks good. Mark, nice seeing you again. Denise.
Great to see you.
Mike.
Okay.
You
Mike,
will.
Mike, maybe we can just, if you want to give me a call or let's talk real soon, either right away or later.
Yeah, let me give you a call tomorrow. I'm just back after a week off. I got about 200
Very good.
emails I gotta get through. and-
Okay, sounds good.
and then
Thank you,
I'll-
everybody, really very much.
Bye now.